I've been sculpting for a very long time, about 7 or 8 years, and honestly, I've been getting pretty burnt out. So with this project, I decided I want to try and have some fun again. Shit. So all I did was get an armature that was unused that I made a long time ago. And I have no prior ideas or design for it. I just sat down, turned the camera on, and started brainstorming. All right. Hello. I have this guy here. It's not the... Ooh, the focus is weird. This is a brand new camera, my bad. All right, I have this thing. It's an old armature. I've kind of fixed it up, added the basics, an old resin eye as well, which is cool. I used to make these, I no longer anymore. I might pick it up later, but using the scraps is kind of fun because now I have to get creative and make a character with one eye. And because I'm so creative, I was going to make a pirate, but I kind of want to have some more fun with it. I've never painted a miniature before. Like, I've painted sculptures I've made, but I've never tried painting it like mini painters do. And I always thought that looked cool. So I think we'll give it a go. But now I have to come up with a cool idea. I like fantasy, so we're going to do fantasy. I want to use paints that will make it look like something's glowing. So in my last project, I made a minotaur with a sword that's supposed to be red hot, and it didn't really work. So I think what we're going to go with is the same idea. He's not got the proportions of, say, like a dwarf or something, but he could be some kind of blacksmith. That's also not super original. Let's see. Not a blacksmith. I want some kind of glowing sword, or maybe like glowing runes, so it could be a magician. I also want to do less anatomy stuff. All I do is anatomy stuff. So maybe we'll do someone who's heavily armored or wearing some cool kind of like fantasy outfit. Let's do something like that. I gotta think more about this, but we'll see. So in the spirit of having fun and trying to get some joy back in my creative process, I sat down, turned on some music, summoned the spirit of creativity with some old Kanye, whom I miss, by the way. I just started messing around. I kind of sat down, looked at the shape, and came to a pretty sudden, decisive realization. It could be a pirate. Screw it, it's a pirate. And with that, I was off. I just started adding clay on top of the face, playing around with the idea that it was some kind of undead pirate. And a little later on, the idea for a villain from the Pirates of the Caribbean showed up. And that was off camera, so I don't have the inception of that idea. But pretty quickly, everything started falling into place. I got in the zone, lots of singing and humming to myself. With the face done, I baked. I went ahead and baked the face so that I could start putting the details on top of that without worrying about messing it up. The initial design for the costume was pretty basic pirate stuff, a tricorn hat, and everything was done with the intent of later adding detail on top of it. So I put basic flowing clothing, and then I started making a basic rigging contraption. I wanted to imply that there was a ship kind of off screen that your imagination could fill up. Once it was time to add the details, I used a softer Super Sculpey that I could put a lot of indents into. I tried incorporating as much fine detail as possible so that I could pick it up later with some paint. A lot of indents in clay is very useful when you're painting because putting a darker color inside it will kind of bring out a lot of the different layers of texture that you've put. For the detail when it came to the coat, I gave him a lot of flowing texture. He's wearing a trench coat, and I tried layering some Mayan details on top just because I felt it needed less of a typical fantasy feel, and I wanted to incorporate this idea that maybe this character is a ancient Mayan god in human form. And that design idea or concept got more fleshed out later on, and I settled on this lore for a fictional Pirates of the Caribbean movie where the villain is a greedy pirate who took on the soul of a Mayan god into his body, and it's slowly killing him. And in order to still have control over it, he's looking for a vessel to put the god into and still have control over. You'll see later on that it turned out to be a box with a jewel inside it, and when I painted it, I had a plan of those runes that I had carved into his trench coat being the same glowing purple or red that the jewel is, and I was going to put that in his eye as well, but that didn't really work out in the end. But that concept I liked, and I kind of used that as a guiding light for the project. After some final details like feathers and rings on his fingers, it was finally time to paint. And this is always my favorite part because you can really put some life into the project. I started off with a nice base coat of gray, picked off what I had used to cover the eye, which was some clay because I didn't want to have to repaint the eye. I think it's perfect as it is. After a quick pass to make sure all the details are still visible, I started with bone white for the skull, and then I started layering down some more basic colors. My typical process for these paint jobs is to pick two contrasting colors and lay them all down flat, and then start using washes in different tones and some mini paints to try and give it texture and variety. In this case, I picked green and red. There's a lot of variety within those colors, so I used some purple. I think the color is called Alchemist Purple in my mini paint set, and some darker greens, a little bit of cyan and turquoise, as you'll see, but the washes bring everything together very nicely. It's easier to blend everything, so you'll see me put some green washes on top of both the purple and greens. Pretty quickly I had to abandon my idea of painting glowing runes. It didn't work quite well, especially because I tried using some of that same purple alchemist on top of everything, and it kind of blended too much. There wasn't enough contrast between the colors I wanted to be flat and the colors I wanted to glow, but I went with it. It worked quite well. The muscles on his face were a reddish purple, and then adding brown washes, some sand washes as well, helped give it more of a grimier feel. A lot of my fantasy sculptures, I like using that grimy wash because it feels very worn out. And I use a lot of silver and gold to try and accentuate certain parts. And when I think pirate, I think gold. I think everybody else does. After a few more finishing touches, a little more detail on the rings, the box he was holding, and the feathers, I was done. That was fun. Okay, the guy is done. I'm gonna see if I can get this thing to focus, but my friend here is finished. I did, in fact, have fun while making him, which was great. Went a little off the cuff with the colors, and I did end up stylizing him. So I don't know if he looks like something from Pirates of the Caribbean, but I'll live with it. I like it. Very cartoony, very ominous looking, and I did manage to get a lot of character in his face, which was the goal. There was a bit of a revelation along with this video, mostly because I've been for a long time pushing myself with art in a way that isn't very sustainable, and this was an attempt at making it more fun. But I did have to stop myself from turning this into a chore like I do with a lot of other things. And the big aha moment was when I was painting him and his belt broke off and I almost dropped him, and I tensed my whole body. And just doing that meant that something in my neck just went, and I was out of action for a few days just because I was so stressed that my neck is so fragile that just tensing like meant that I was lying in bed and I couldn't do anything for about a day. The lesson there would be that just chill out a bit. Just chill out. Have some fun. So I hope you enjoy this kind of video. And in the same vein of having fun, my next project is gonna be my third attempt at a Batman from The Dark Knight Returns. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.